In the universe of Battlelords of the 23rd century, there are many spacefaring species which call the galaxy home, but only a few comprise the Galactic Alliance. The founders of the Alliance, the Matsians, call the planet Treshmag home, and are an oligarchy run by the Vision of Eight. These are also the Matsian representatives on the Council of Timar, which governs the Alliance, its interactions between species, and the admittance of new members. They most resemble the Greys of Earth lore, which is unsurprising considering the species' longevity. Given that the Matsians developed space travel around 112,000 years ago, who's to say they weren't our mysterious visitors? Their history, pre-interstellar travel, can be identified as far back as 400,000 years BCE. Matsians themselves are energy controllers, that is to say, they evolved the means to manipulate stored energy to alter the very fabric of the universe. To those unfamiliar with these power matrices, it appears as if they are performing feats of magic rather than altering the state of energy at quantum levels through mental manipulation. As such, they have evolved small, slight bodies with outsized craniums. The next oldest spacefaring species is that of the Chatillion Empire, which charts its first trip to the stars around 10,000 BCE. Not long after, they happened across the Matsians, and the first seed of the Galactic Alliance was planted. The Chatillions themselves, who originate on the planet Chatil, are small-bodied, with prominent cone-shaped heads, reminiscent of asparagus. They are a species with a large number of empaths, whose telepathic abilities allow them to access the minds of those around them. In fact, Chatillions prefer to communicate via telepathy, as they feel information is conveyed faster, more clearly, and at a higher rate than the slow, plodding verbal transfer. This ability of the Chatillions is yet another form of energy manipulation, though of a different means than that of the Matsians. As such, their skills are oriented around sensory and mental perception. One of the species whose appearance would be least likely to cause a stir among humans is the Scissor Egg. Well, as long as you ignore the body armor and mounted sophisticated weaponry with which the species of warriors adorns themselves. The Scissor Egg most resembled large predatory cats of Earth, and call the planet Casulius home. These large felines are a relatively new species to interstellar travel, first leaving the confines of their home system in 97 CE. The species are female-dominated, with the males serving as second-class citizens. Prior to joining the Alliance, the males were kept as slaves of the female household. While Alliance membership has removed the injustice of slavery, the social inequality persists on Scissor Egg worlds, with males who do not conform leaving for the frontier. Unlike the Chatillions, the first species the Scissor Egg encountered were not Matsians, but rather two species of lizards inhabiting the planet Pythos, called the Pythonians, and the larger ram pythons, in 1856 CE. Despite being a warrior clan society, there was a promising start to the initial interaction, but a cultural misunderstanding led to the death of a Scissor Egg envoy at the hands of a ram python chieftain. This sparked a century of war between the two species, which was only halted through the efforts of members of the Galactic Alliance, which made peace conditional for membership. However, some degree of enmity exists to this day. I guess that's what happens when a lizard king squeezes one of your special envoys to death. Hug, squash like a grape, tomato, tomato. Warriors, as fearsome as the Pythonians, but in an entirely different way, can be found in the Eridani, from the methane planet Eridani of Epsilon Eridani, a culture which created religion around combat and honor. Sharing some similarities with the samurai of Earth's Japanese shogunates, the Eridani are a caste society with the warrior sword saints of the Vax caste at the apex, who are followers of the Budash Dog, or Warrior's Way, where they believe the divine can only be experienced by the honorable in combat. Next are the Tolud, which are the administrators, business owners, and functionaries who permit societies to function. Lastly are the Madig, the outcasts, those who do not find themselves a fit in the rigid hierarchy of Eridani society. The Eridani themselves threatened the stability of the galaxy in their war against the equally ferocious Fintari. The Fintari, a species of hexapods from the frigid methane planet Fina, would be deemed a thing of nightmares by human society, as well they should. With an appetite for human flesh, which they find quite the delicacy, the Fintari are a cartilaginous species whose upper four limbs are long tentacles similar to those of an octopus, and lower two legs, which, while still cartilage, are more rigid, with a bidirectional knee. Unusual for a predatory species, they have eyes on either side of their heads, which can operate independently and provide a 360-degree view of the battlefield, in addition to a more traditional forward binocular view. This gives them astounding situational awareness, which, when paired with their incredible dexterity and ability to wield multiple weapons in each pair of tentacles, makes them quite the nightmare indeed. However, without the aid of the Orions, the Fintari might well have been eradicated by the Eridani. The Orions are not allies one would expect to find hanging around with the Fintari, being tall humanoid species who resemble the elves of human folklore. Standing at roughly human height, they have pointed ears and seven-fingered hands. Orions themselves are not considered to be warriors, but rather the celebrants of every flavor of excitement life has to offer, from adrenaline-pumping combat to the latest fashions and the hardest drugs. Money and power buy access to the best adventures, trends, and accessories, and that's where they focus their skills. It should be noted that the Orions didn't naturally look like humans, but rather universally adopted the appearance as just another trend. Orions themselves are sneaky, cunning, and resourceful, traits admired by the Fintari and put to good use in their war against the Eridani before an uneasy truce permitted them entrance into the Galactic Alliance. Of the more unusual members of the Galactic Alliance, we can find the Matsians. Matsians are blob-like beings from the planet Charis and are skilled shapeshifters. They can change nearly every aspect of their scent and appearance, including internal organs. If they see it in use, they can probably replicate it if they so choose. Unlike most of the rest of the Alliance, they didn't develop space travel for themselves, but rather were found inadvertently by the Scissorax in 1011 BC, when the Scissorax tried to colonize Charis, not knowing of the original inhabitants. While similar to the encounter which led to the demise of the Scissorac envoy among the Pythons, in this particular instance, the Matsian engulfing the purring Scissorac was found to be mutually beneficial. Take that as you will. The Keane, like the Fintari, are hexapods, but decidedly unlike the Fintari, the Keane favor avoiding confrontation, a trait evolved in conjunction with the thin coating of slime which acts as a natural adaptable camouflage. On their home planet of Muspelheim, they live amongst hidden cities in the treetops of the planet's vast forests. They were introduced to members of the Alliance when the Mutsakans unknowingly settled the planet, and a visiting Chatillion envoy sensed their presence and brokered contact, which ultimately led the mysterious Keane and their stealthy skill set into the Alliance. The Rosette, an insectoid species from the planet Rosette, are a slight but durable species with excellent mechanical aptitude and a natural chitinous exoskeleton, which provides some degree of natural armor. They also can fly short distances with a set of wings which fold under a protective shell of their abdomen and thorax. Their homeworld is an example of environmental extremes, which would rapidly eliminate most other common life forms, and as such, the Rosette have evolved to survive from a most unusual and broad range of sustenance. Unlike other Alliance species, the Rosette weren't introduced to the wonders of the galaxy by an encounter with members of the Alliance, but rather through the aggression of an unknown alien species, and it is this war which left much of their homeworld a toxic wasteland. The Zen Rigellan, whose homeworld is Catrell, are a species with a visage that humans might find frightening, but whose skills and culture lie in the manipulation of healing matrices. Nearly all of the Alliance's wondrous battlefield healing technologies are products of Zen research. What's most surprising is that, of the species mentioned, the healers of the Zen originate from the most brutal and warlike of cultures. After nearly eradicating themselves in war, the Zen pivoted towards a cultural belief centered around family and duty to each other and their planet, becoming nearly entirely pacifistic. However, those who did not fit the societal mold were deemed Zazen and are outcasts from Zen society. These Zazen, who follow more individualized beliefs, maintain many of the same skills, but augment them with a broader skill set which harkens to their more violent roots. The Alliance's newest members, with much chagrin amongst Alliance members themselves, are the Fot, a genetically engineered species created by the terrorists known as Uncle Ernie and his minions of doom. The Fot were engineered to meet all the qualifications of a sentient life form amongst all the Alliance species. Fot are a furry human-rabbit hybrid mixed with other, largely unknown sources, and most members of the Alliance thus have severe trust issues with the Fot as a result. The Fot don't care. Having no real cultural history of their own prior to their introduction to Delphix 9 by Uncle Ernie, where they did like rabbits do and spawned a huge population growth from an unknown initial introduction to over 5 billion in just over a decade, the Fot themselves mostly resemble Appalachian family clan structure. The Fot themselves are not particularly aggressive amongst themselves, but their imprinting causes them to become belligerent among other intelligent species. The Fot were nearly eradicated as a result of their decidedly low-tech world declaring war on the Alliance, which could freely bombard them from space. It was only the Zen which saved them from extinction. Since the war, the Fot have proven themselves adept at navigating the bureaucracy of the Alliance for aid and assistance in building up and repairing their own infrastructure, but still maintain a not-so-healthy distrust of outsiders. Last amongst the species in the Alliance are the humans, and of them a scientifically engineered subset of gen humans. People engineered for specific tasks, and to do those specific tasks quickly and efficiently. Like all other species mentioned, we have our own strengths and weaknesses. We come from warlike origins, but as we grow, many of us strive for something better, something stronger, together. Perhaps it is this characteristic of our species which prompted the Musakans to see something worth saving as we were on the brink of our own eradication, and why even now a relatively young member of the Alliance now lists Gen Human as its highest official. Or maybe it's the rugged individualism as found amongst those frontier worlds which shun Alliance involvement. Or perhaps something else, some purpose known only to the Matsian architects of the Alliance themselves. But the universe is what we choose to make of it, together. Or not. Maybe the universe is us keeping something else from making it what it chooses. After all, this is Battlelords.